friends, and welcome to M&M Hour with our dear friend Mandy Slutsker. Hi, Mandy.
Hi. Good to see you again.
Good. Yeah, of course. Good to see you again. And I'm so jealous because Mandy is in my favorite place in the world right now, Chicago, Illinois. So how goes it, Mandy? How's your trip?
It goes well. I am traveling for work and I am in a Westin hotel, which if those of you who are watching, you can see my beautiful background and terrible lighting.
It's like such hotel art. It's
It
like
is
peak
such hotel art. Yeah. And there's like hotel art on one side and then there's the vent on the other.
But you know what? The coloring of whatever that painting is, it works really lovely with your skin tone. So, hey.
Oh, thank you.
No, it really does. It's a good shade palette for right behind you. Yeah. Your beautiful porcelain skin.
Maybe I'll try and go like this.
There. Oh, now you got
Is that
it,
better?
Girl. She just
Okay.
did. That's better because now we don't
Did a
see the
small
vent. And
adjustment.
that's what life is. My therapist calls it reasonable accommodations, and it's making the life adjustments to just make things better day by day. So kudos. Or kudos, as Ramona would say. So a couple of exciting things I wanted to tell the audience is that, number one, Mandy and I, when we do our M&M Hour, so normally what we do is we record mine, we record yours, you post yours on Sunday, and then I post mine on Tuesday. But what we're going to try this week is to post both of our episodes to both of our feeds respectfully. So I just feel like it's a great way to cross-pollinate. And so you all can look forward to when people see Mandy's part 1 or part 2 or whatever we call it, they're going to be like, what the heck? So I hope that this clears that up and it's just more ways to enjoy us.
Yes. Very happy about that.
So today, what Mandy and I are going to be talking about is, of course, Summer House, because there's a lot to talk about specifically with KJ and borderline personality disorder and a couple of other things. So we're going to talk about that on my podcast. And then on hers, we're going to talk about other aspects of Summer House. And then we're also going to talk about Real Housewives of Rhode Island because it's so good. And it is made for what we do. And so we have so much to talk about with Rhode Island. But before we get into that, Mandy was telling me a story. We were chatting on the phone the other day, and you got recognized out in the wild, and I was just so excited.
Oh, yeah. I was at a friend's birthday, and a person there that's friends with them said they listened to my podcast, and I thought they only knew about me through the birthday friend, but no, I think they found it in the wild. So that was very exciting. So if you guys think you see me somewhere, please say hi.
Yeah. And I was shocked because you were asking her about your podcast and she's like, well, my favorite is M&M Hour. And I was like, yeah.
I was like, oh, I need to tell Melissa that. You know what? Another really crazy story is many years ago when my dad first moved in with Joyce in Minnesota, I guess a letter that went to him or went to Joyce or something like that ended up in the neighbor's mailbox. And so the neighbor had like something addressed to Slutsker on their kitchen counter. And their daughter was home visiting. And the daughter was like, Slutsker? Wait, is there Slutskers next door? And then when she delivered it, she's like, hey, are you related to Mandy Slutsker? My stepmom was like, yeah, that's like my stepdaughter. And she goes, oh, I listened to her pod. And then she's like, oh, my stepmom was like, oh, do you know her blog?
Her blog?
Joyce doesn't know what a podcast is, essentially. So yeah, it was hilarious. And I was like, that is crazy. Like, in Minnesota, like a random, I was like, there are not that many people that listen to this. So I, of course, met her and she was like very excited to meet Stassi, which was the best because she knew so much about Stassi, the dog.
Yeah, of course. I mean, your dog Stassi is like the star of our show, I feel. She should be our mascot, actually.
She is.
You know what? That's good to think about because I want to start making merch and maybe we'll have to, I don't know, we'll have to do some M&M Hour. Maybe Stassi can be our mascot.
Yes, maybe merch, especially ahead of BravoCon. Because I know that there's FanFest. That feels like maybe too much at once in a short period of time and maybe not I'm like, let's go big or go home kind of a thing. So I feel like BravoCon is where it's at. It's not easy. It's not an easy situation. It is so fun. But as someone with not chronic disease, I need days to recover from that. And I don't even drink alcohol much. So,
right. Which is why I'm always hesitant because I'm like, can I physically do this? My looks gaslight me all the time. Like I'm looking at myself. My skin has never looked better. My hair is luscious. My body just gaslights me. But here's the thing. I do want to tell you, number one, because I forget who I was podcasting with that we talked about this. But either way, the long and the short of it was they were talking about seeing you at BravoCon and they're like talking about how it would really be fun for like all of us to go together. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm thinking about it. I, have to get through all of this stuff with my grandfather. But that truthfully, it's on my vision board for 2027.
It's not till November 2027. So,
right.
Yeah.
I got time to.
You got time. And you know what? You don't have to go to all 3 days. You get tickets for one day.
Right.
Exactly. Or two individual days and like go Friday and Sunday and like rest in between or whatever it is. There's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure. Exactly. So we'll put a pin in this, but that is my goal. And then that would be amazing for us to have merch and it would we'll see about it. So are you not going to the Charleston, whatever it is?
I don't think so. I just don't know if it's worth it. I mean, it's fun to see all the other content creators, but the fall is a lot. There's just a lot that happens in the fall, like with work and elections. And I don't know, I just feel like I need to pour into myself and do things that are like very restorative.
Yes.
And I feel like after BravoCon, I was like, okay, I can actually wait 2 years before the next one. Like that's how tired I was from it.
Yeah. Well, I think you should listen to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like if I have a choice between going to Charleston when it's going to be slammed with all these Bravo people and going to Charleston a different weekend, I probably would choose a different weekend.
Yeah. I mean, the prospect, though, of running into those Southern Charm guys in the wild is so fascinating to me. Like, it's, like almost like going to a zoo. I want to see them in their natural habitat.
Right. but like,
no, I'm definitely not going.
Convention center. Yeah. No, I think it would be fun to run into them at a bar. But again, like.
Right.
I don't know. And which ones, right? Like Austin's the only, and Shep, I would hang out with either of them, plus all the ladies. But yeah, I'm not so sure about Craig.
Oh my God. So speaking of that, this is a brilliant transition, if I do say so myself, is let's talk about Summer House. But one of the things, I just saw this before we popped on right now, and I wanted to share it with you. The name on Instagram is Riccio Recaps, RICCIO Recaps, because I never know how to say things right. But what's so interesting, speaking of Craig Hanover, is do you remember that season that Paige and Craig were on Summer House, and I forget what season it was, and Amanda got caught holding Craig's hand under the table? Do you remember that?
I remember from recently because after everything came with Amanda and Wes, people were like looking back, and that was one of the things that came out.
Yes. And so this one account was basically saying that Sierra's texts that they showed at the reunion were like, so let me ask a clarifying question. You didn't hook up, have sex, hold hands under the table, which was a reference to that moment. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I did not clock that. And we have to all remember is that's the time that Paige DeSorbo stopped fucking with Amanda because she clocked the weirdness of it. And it is just interesting. Like people now are looking back. But I just wanted to see if you remembered that because that is wild.
Oh, I didn't remember it ever happening. It was when it was brought back. And I actually don't think it's that weird for like two people to hold hands during a huge fight. But like, I feel like I wouldn't hold a hand if it was like a friend's boyfriend. I would like, if I was super uncomfortable and didn't know what to do, I might grab the arm, right? And just kind of like, like grab the arm and be like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, why is everyone screaming?
Right.
But like to like handhold feels like a little more intimate and something I probably wouldn't do. With
especially the under the table. Because like you said, like if I was sitting next to someone and there was chaos popping off, I'd probably grab something, like you said, an arm, like a hand, a wrist, something. Like be like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I think what's so wild is the sneaky, the under the table of it that, yeah. And just like, for example, my husband and I, we've been together a long time. Like if I did that under the table with some guy, he'd be like, excuse me? He would not care, So I see what you're saying. I think that people are definitely really digging and looking for tits on an ant when it comes to Amanda, for sure. That's part of it. Yeah, that's part of it. And some of it I enjoy and some of it is just like, we need to just all touch grass, listen to some birds, and just relax because this is getting insane.
Yeah.
Like Amanda and West had to flee the country. They went to Italy.
They'll get recognized there.
Yeah. And there were all these blinds, well, not blinds, but things coming in like Bravo and cocktails and, whatever. It just is so insane. So anyway, let's talk Summer House. Where would you like to start, Mandy Slutsker? Where would you like to start?
Let's talk about Dara and KJ. I was going to say Kara and DJ, but Dara and KJ. Sorry, I like all the names. It appears in the last, few days that they have unfollowed each other or stopped. Yeah, I feel like people have been really, really, really tough on Dara. I don't exactly know why. I feel bad for anyone that experiences the internet badly, like regardless of their behavior, because I just don't think the average human being is meant to withstand the hate of the entire internet. Right. One thing I will say before we start talking about KJ is prior to him revealing anything, I did notice concerning behavior online from him, which I usually call the Lisa Rinna effect, which is posting impulsively and compulsively without the ability to stop. And I'm like more new on Threads and he's on Threads and he posts a lot, like very frequently. And I think he is doing it to get responses and that is giving him some sort of dopamine hit, which I understand. Like I get the same thing when I get whatever on my phone that makes me happy. That's what it's set up to do to make it addictive. But he just doesn't seem to have control over his posting. He's not saying anything like super inappropriate or anything like that, but him just not being able to stop worries me.
Right.
And I remember Pete Davidson in an interview once saying that his psychiatrist told him to get off the internet and he like got off all social media. And that I'm like, I didn't make the connection between both of them having the same diagnosis, but there is something that makes me concerned for KJ's level of posting. I see it a lot with Bravo celebrities where they like literally can't stop themselves. And I'm like, we see Kate Michelle on Atlanta and like in the moment, like she posts like crazy stuff. KJ's not posting as much crazy stuff, but he's just like constantly posting, looking for reactions. And it concerned me.
I think that is a very astute observation and interesting point because KJ and I follow each other because it's always interesting to me to see how people respond, like to go from being a regular human being to being a celebrity. I think that would fuck with anybody.
Anyone.
I mean, he went from, I think when I started following him at the beginning of the season, I think he had maybe like, I don't know, under 10,000 followers. And now all of a sudden he has 107,000 followers. And like, I've been supporting him because like, that's how I roll. When I support people, I really support them. And I've seen the comments go from 5 to 155 to 555. And so I think that your point is super valid in terms of when we go from being a regular person to being put into the spotlight, then you add in this fracture of the group, which I think someone like KJ is going to be more susceptible to the negative impacts of that because of his disorder. So I'll start by just sharing what he shared and what the diagnosis is. But by the way, before I do that, going back to what you said about he and Dara, and you're right, he is all over Threads and he is posting a lot. The one thing that I just saw him post on Threads was that someone was like, I'm so confused because just 24 hours ago, she had like a DSW event and they were there together. And KJ said on Threads, I'm just as confused as you all are. But I think that proves your point.
Yeah, he shouldn't be saying that to the internet.
He's getting validation and support from the internet, which is really dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Because, as you just said, it's a roller coaster. People either love you or they hate you, and there is no in between. And like there are books written, and I will get recommendations because I always forget them, but there are books written about how bad social media is for our mental health. And as someone who does this and manages my own mental health issues, I can tell you is that sometimes I have to just sign off of Instagram because it fucks with my brain. Because people either really love me or they really hate me. And either way, they want me to know. And so I think those are just really great points. So borderline personality disorder, he said BPD. And so I think people got that confused with a bipolar disorder. Yeah. So BPD is borderline personality disorder. And the thing why I'm really glad to be speaking about this is because borderline personality disorder is a mental health condition that I believe is the most weaponized, misunderstood, and mischaracterized diagnosis, maybe period. It's something that people sometimes get slapped with when they're maybe acting out or just like having a normal experience, like a traditional experience with borderline personality disorder. But because there's this self-harm piece, what happens is women especially will get painted with that like crazy brush of, oh, well, you're just unstable or you're just this or you're just that. No. So let me be really clear that borderline personality disorder comes from adverse childhood experiences, period. It comes from abuse, neglect, and essentially what happens is it impacts how people see themselves and then interact with others in the world. And so what happens is people get this fear of abandonment. Like Alicia on Real Housewives of Rhode Island would be a good example, and we'll talk about that in a bit, where people have childhood trauma, they've been abandoned, and then they recreate their trauma in their current life because they're so afraid of being abandoned that they have a hard time understanding how to interact in relationships. But the other really interesting thing about borderline personality disorder is it comes with a really distorted self-image. And that underlies a lot of the problems interacting with self, others, in the world, because it's like if we don't know who we are and we don't have a real healthy self-perception, it's just going to get acted out in all these ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it also just makes me feel for anyone that has that. And especially being so young, like it's hard to know who you are when you're young, right? And as you get older, I think a lot of us find and figure out who we are a bit more. And yeah, if you have a distorted self-image, then it makes a lot of things very complicated.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, how do I exist in relationships with the world, with other people? And the one thing I will say that I'm going to really stand 10 toes down on is that after KJ announced that he had borderline personality disorder, the rhetoric I'm seeing online around this breakup is fucking disgusting. And I'm going to stop it right now. Anyone coming into comments saying that, I saw one comment, well, being in a relationship with someone with BPD is really hard, so I don't blame her. And it's like, fuck you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't treat people like they're less than or they're subhuman or they're inherently problematic. Don't do that because we don't know what happened in this relationship.
Also,
it's insane.
His diagnosis was in the fall. We are like 9 months away from that. They have been together that entire time. So if she ended up ending things, like I don't think it's not like he got diagnosed and she left. Right?
Right.
Like, I think we need to give everyone a little bit of space and a little bit of grace. They are a couple that has only been together less than a year, and they've navigated some incredibly difficult things together. Forget the TV show for a second. So they film a show where things are very heightened, right? Which I'm sure is difficult for someone with BPD. Like, he seemed more upset at the summer ending than a lot of the other people did. Like, everything's going to change now. I don't want it to change. Which, I mean, I feel the same way at the end of it. Like when I was a kid and like summer ended, in summer camp, like I don't want to go back to the way it was, And then he had this mental health crisis where he leaned on Dara and he leaned on Sierra and Mia. And, he went to a hospital and he checked himself into a hospital and he was hospitalized and he was evaluated at the hospital, and then he moved to a recovery center where he was for multiple months. So like that is a lot to handle, having dated someone for like just a couple of months, right? It's just, it's a lot. You don't know each other for both, right? Like he doesn't know
Right.
her as well and she doesn't know him as well. And they're like committed to figuring this out. And so they weathered that. And then all of a sudden he's probably like out of the treatment center and how many months in between that and when the show starts airing. And that is a whole other mind fuck because now people are commenting on watching you and you're watching yourself 6 months ago or more, you know? Like it's
a version of you that might no longer even exist.
So I feel so for all of them, like having to rewatch themselves is really tough. And then to hear everyone's thoughts and like on their edited self, you know, I think KJ got lucky in a way that like everyone fell in love with him, but that love doesn't last, unfortunately. And people like flip, which is why I'm so nervous that he's like reliant on love from fans as like part of him feeling like okay about himself. And I want him to lean on like the love from his friends. Like Mia and Sierra seem like incredible friends to him. He's got people, you know, and he should lean on them. But like they've been through a lot in a very short period of time. So I feel like we should take all judgment out of it. Like it's a lot. It's a lot to date someone and then like a big event happen and you're navigating it together and you don't know each other that well.
Right. This would be like if Scandival happened in like an early season of the show. You know what I mean? Like for KJ and Dara, this is their first season of the show. I mean, Summer House has been on for, I think, 10 years, but yeah, I think as always, those are great points. And, you know, the one thing I will say is that with borderline personality disorder, the etiology of it, which I share because it can be really weaponized, but there are neurobiological experiences of people with borderline personality disorder, meaning there are change in brain structure and function. This is not in people's heads. This is very real and it's shown in brain imaging studies. So it's, you know, genetics, environment, which is the abuse, neglect, and adverse childhood experiences. And to your point, the only thing that will help this is KJ learning to love and take care of himself first and foremost.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to block out the noise because I will tell you today I had the craziest experience. I'm not even going to get into it. But for me, what I can say is like, I'm a person who I'm in my own therapy. I have insight and awareness and it messed with my head all day today. Because it's frustrating when all these people are saying things about you on the internet that are mischaracterizing you, things, whatever. So I think that I do have concerns for him going forward, but I also appreciate his awareness that he has got to do that work so that he can get to a place where he has really strong roots. Because I think that's the thing with borderline personality disorder is like the major theme, because I've spent a lot of time treating this when I was in practice, is that when there's a storm, if the trees aren't rooted, like they get blown all over the place. And so sometimes when people have these disorders, you don't have strong roots. And so every time a storm comes, you're just flowing with the breeze. Yeah. And that feels so awful. You feel like you have no control. You just feel like you can't do anything right. And then it's like the loneliness. That's the irony with this is there's like a crippling feeling of loneliness, but some of it is self-created, but not purposely. It's just like, that it's the trauma moving through and presenting itself.
We know about one of his traumas. I don't know if it took place when he was under 18, but he mentioned at the very end of the season that he lost his brother. And that that's why he felt like this group of guys and this feeling of camaraderie that they had and him feeling like part of a group mattered so much to him, is that he felt like he gained all these brothers. It was so beautiful. But you know, that is one of the death of a sibling, the death of a parent, the death of someone in your immediate family is one of the aces, you know, so
1000%.
If that happened when he was younger, I mean, even if it didn't, right? He's only 28, like even if it happened 3 years prior, that is a life altering experience. That is really, really tough to navigate. I just, so impressed with KJ for like not even talking about it, for actually taking action. Because I wouldn't even know what to do. I think, you know, when you are dealing with something that's mental illness, number one, you don't always know it's mental illness. Like, even though you're the one experiencing it.
Right.
Other people might notice something's off with you, but you don't always notice something's off with yourself. And then to be able to ask for help and to ask the right people. Like Sierra knows hospitals in New York City. She was a nurse. She can like look up what's a great, psychiatric.
I bet Sierra helped him get to where he
Carl,
needed to be.
With his connections to Release Recovery Foundation. And that was the place after he was hospitalized that like he leaned on to find mental health treatment that was longer than just like, don't go directly back into the environment that you were in, which is so amazing.
Is crucial.
Yeah.
Is crucial. And I wanted to take a minute because when I heard that he went inpatient, so what happens is it's called like the levels of care, right? And so psychiatric hospitalization is the highest level of care that you can be at. And when you're leaving a level of care like that, you don't want to go from inpatient to nothing. That is a setup for failure. And so it is appropriate to what's called step down, to step down in terms of the level of care. And so I know he got good treatment because he did the right things. And you can tell he's really invested because the way that he spoke about it, I did cry. Because I just felt so proud of him.
Oh my God.
For just being like so courageous and so brave and being like, this is what I'm struggling with. I took action. I got the help. I'm working on my shit. And it's like, you're a rock star. You're a literal rock star. You're doing the work. But then the social media piece comes in. And that's where I worry that can really interfere with reacclimating to the new normal, whatever that looks like.
I have a question for you. Do you think, and I don't know much about like the DSM and like when they're going to have the next one and how that's moving and whatever, but do you foresee there being a future diagnosis, like diagnoses based on the internet? Like where people have like such an unhealthy relationship with the internet that is like a unique, it's something that I like don't know how to group, I mean, not that to group, but like Lisa Rinna is my like number one example where she just was melting down on the internet. And despite her bosses and despite Andy and other people saying, please stop, she did not stop. And I think it's because she couldn't stop and it felt very compulsive. And it was very worrying because I don't know. And again, maybe she has some other issue that like this flared it up. But seeing people act so different than you know them to be on the internet, it feels like it's its own category of whatever or like a subcategory. I don't know. I just notice people having, and it's so, the internet is like design, these like apps and stuff and social media are designed to like get you to behave that way.
It's literally based on conditioning.
Yeah, it's so scary
it's like
to me.
Behavioral conditioning at its finest. And so here's what I'll say about that. So the DSM, because I did look this up to double check it, so I'm not talking totally out of my butt. It does not officially recognize social media addiction as a medical condition. However, it does include internet gaming disorder as a condition that requires further study.
Okay.
But so what happens is with DSM and things like that is they'll take the sociological shifts and they have to adjust to it. And in addiction, when I was in the field, and this was, probably over 10 years ago at this point, in the field of addiction, like online, either internet, like pornography or social media obsession, things like that, those are addressed just like any other substance abuse issue. But in terms of the actual DSM diagnosis, like all things when it comes to progress, the DSM is definitely one of those things where there's been a lot of problems and imperfections and like being gay used to be a diagnosis in the DSM, which what the actual fuck. So,
and the autism they said was created by refrigerator moms, which were moms that didn't show enough warmth to their children. That was like unofficial American Psychiatric Association literature.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Like it's just crazy stuff, right?
Yeah. There's real misses here. And that's where the clinical practice comes in, because if you're just studying something, if you're just looking at things on paper, you're missing 95% of the population. So my hope is that we need more research and more studies, but there is absolutely no doubt from my clinical experience, my personal experience, that internet addiction is very real. And it's, again, like that conditioned thing with Pavlov, where it's like you ring a bell and then the dog starts to drool. Well, what do you think happens when you get those notifications on Instagram? Ding, 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 ding. It's like your brain is drooling because you're like, oh, let me get this validation from strangers I don't know. Nom, 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 nom. And it fucks with us. So thank you. I mean, this has been actually like one of the things I love about you. It's good to have a kiki, but it's also like really important stuff. And I'm glad that we're talking about it. Was there anything else that you wanted to say on this topic before we moved on to a couple other things?
No.
Okay. So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Bailey and Ben.
I find it so fascinating because some people think that he was actually being very direct. And I think I thought that when he was talking to her, like he wasn't doing anything that should elicit her to react how strongly she reacted to him. Like I felt like he was being somewhat reasonable and how he spoke in like not a yelling tone. It was just kind of a little bit bizarre because it did feel like a parent talking to a child as opposed to like a peer talking to a peer. That's what I thought was weird about it. But I didn't feel like he was like yelling at her, quote unquote. And then there's people who are like, he didn't do anything wrong. He like communicated like it's so important to have direct communication. And then there's people who are like, oh my God, he's abusive. Like, whoa. Like
whoa,
I don't think it's like any of those things. Like, I think he has a way of communicating and he communicates very differently with women than with men. And not all of the other people on the show have that like clear of a delineation of how they communicate with women or with men. Like Lindsay, I would argue, communicates pretty much the same with absolutely everyone, sometimes to her detriment, you know, and with Carl asking her to be softer and things like that. But Ben, I think she clocked something in that, like how Ben communicates to women is different. And then when she was like, well, but you were different with Amanda, he's like, but Amanda's like one of the guys. Like he categorized her differently. I just think it's a fascinating thing. I don't think like everything has to be abuse. I don't think everything has to be like he's misogynistic, he's this, he's that. Like, we don't know, right? But she clocked that he did treat women differently than men and that he was extremely supportive of Kyle immediately after Kyle did some pretty horrific things. And he was just trying to be there for Kyle. But when like if one of the women did something horrific, he wasn't like there for the women in the same way. So it's just, I just thought it was like interesting. I don't necessarily like, agree with her that he's this like horrible guy and blah, blah, you know. I just think it's you know, I didn't appreciate the way he spoke to Sabrina. Again, I don't think it's necessarily emotionally abusive.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in that people, again, they either want to make it a nothing burger or abuse. And like that, here's what's really dangerous about that is like that then dilutes when we watch The Valley, that's abuse. We're watching verbal abuse from Danny to his wife. But not everything is abuse. And it's so funny to me because to me, what's fascinating is watching people's reactions to the same exact thing.
That's why I love these shows. Everyone has like totally different takes and it's all based off of like your life experience and what you know. It was just interesting to see. And I appreciated seeing Bailey pop off because we haven't really seen her be like that before.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, okay. Like, this is nice to see you like express yourself the way that you apparently have to on a reunion. Like, you have to kind of yell in order to get your point across on a reunion with that many people. And she did a great job. And I don't necessarily think like Ben is all bad and Bailey is all good. I just thought it was like a unique, interesting, and I would love to know the other people on the show's feelings about it. I felt like Sierra was kind of supporting Bailey a bit because when she was like, and it turns out you had a secret girlfriend the whole time. And then Sierra was like, well, it seems like a lot of people had a secret girlfriend. I was like, okay.
I think these women are just like tired of these men because here's the interesting thing with Ben I wanted to talk about, which is he had a very religious upbringing to the point that it seemed like it was smothering, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was your impression, but the impression was there was a lot of restrictions in the home. And with very, very religious, like organized religions, a lot of times there is patriarchal teachings and messaging about how we treat men versus how we treat women. And so the first thing that I thought of is back when Ben talked about having this history with like growing up in a religious household and then seeing the way he talks to men versus women, I'm thinking, how much of this was modeled? How much of this was what
100% of it was modeled, I would argue.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't know that you could, if you had the exact same person brought up in a completely different like scenario, like I think you would get a completely different behavior.
Right.
I'm like
Right.
very proponent of like, nature and nurture, whatever. But like I think nurture really, really impacts stuff.
Well, it definitely does, because even when it's nature, the nurture is like epigenetics tells us that if you have like a genetic predisposition for something and then you're experiencing those ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences, it turns on the genetic
gene,
marker for, So it's like it does all work together. It like our minds and our bodies, there's a synergistic, they're one. It's, the whole thing. But I agree. I think that it's definitely something that she clocked that was so spot on in certain ways. Because I think it's ridiculous that this man claimed to be single and now he's basically like engaged to, the missus, as he would say. And it's like, that doesn't, it's giving like Jesse and Lexi, like that crazy relationship from hell situation. But I really like Bailey, and I feel that Bailey is influenced by Mother Hubbard.
Oh
as
my
people like to
God.
call
Yes. She is performing for Lindsay. That is her audience.
Right. Which, guess what? If I was part of that cast, I might be too.
Yeah.
I don't know, because Mother Hubbard, she just has this strong, beautiful energy about her. I know not everyone's a fan, but I do like the power behind her. But here's what's interesting about Lindsay, speaking of this. So are you watching In the City?
Yes.
So In the City, there's a preview that so Lindsay admitted that her baby daddy broke up with her. And they're in a preview for In the City. You hear her saying, I have to figure out why I'm picking people who continue to abandon me.
Yes.
And so what's fascinating for me is I can't wait to get to that, to gather a little bit more information. But the reason that Lindsay is why she is the way she is because she has a mother wound that is really untreated, it seems like, for the most part. And when we have these wounds with mother wounds, with parent wounds, it leads us to, act out. Like, people can misunderstand, like, standing up for themselves versus being aggressive. And, sometimes I think that line with her can be pretty blurred, but I just think she has a really good heart and soul with sometimes the tongue of someone who's wounded. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I do think that like when she feels she's been wronged, she hits back much harder than she was hit.
Oh, for sure.
In a way that like makes me uncomfortable. But
it should, because it's
I'm
wild.
like, why are you doing this, Lindsay? But I am interested in seeing her more on In the City. I do feel like with Gemma, it's part of it is like healing her, like by being able to be there for her daughter and like attend to her daughter's like every emotional, physical, whatever need. It's like healing something in her. I feel like I see it like in her eyes.
Literally, mothering with a mother wound will not only trigger the shit out of you, but it will also heal you simultaneously.
It's really beautiful to watch. What are you really most interested? Like, what storyline is most interesting to you on In the City?
Just the Kyle and Amanda thing. Because to be honest, it's like what I find so fascinating is that we're seeing like a tale of two cities where on Summer House, Amanda's trying to claim that this relationship has been dead and over. But on this other show that filmed just months apart, her storyline is she's trying to make it work. And so for me, I really get a kick out of like finding those inconsistencies and then kind of being like, I'm not saying anything, you're doing it. Like you're digging your own grave, so to speak. And so I just find that piece a little bit fascinating. I don't like a lot of the other storylines or cast members yet, like outside of Lindsay. Gemma for me is my favorite because her faces, I'm just like, oh my God, this child is just, oh God, I just want to squish her. She's so cute. But
I
otherwise,
like
I'm just
Georgina.
like,
when I don't know what it was that I was walking on my walking pad and she said it and I almost had to stop because I was laughing so hard. She was like, yeah, my kids are really quiet. And so I went to go like see what they were up to. And it turned out my son painted his like genitals blue, which is quite shocking, she said, because his favorite color is green. And I was like, that is so funny. That is so funny. And like, yeah, if you're a single parent and you're trying to cook or you're trying to do anything, you're not able to like watch every single thing that your toddler is doing. And you try to set them up. Everyone's like can understand that. And I just think watching her as a single mom that's also in this like unusual space with Lindsay, it's really nice to see that the two of them have each other. And then I'm also super fascinated by the Danielle and Lindsay of it all. and then the Danielle and her new guy. Like all of it is just really interesting because all the things that Danielle has criticized Lindsay for, she is doing in this new relationship.
Right now.
It's so funny.
But guess what, Mandy? What does that tell us? That tells us that what Danielle was doing with Lindsay was just projecting. She was just projecting. She was projecting her own insecurities onto Lindsay because now she's literally living the same life, literally with a man who was not divorced. I don't know if he is divorced now.
Well,
but
then this episode, we hear from like Kenny and the Whitney, the girl from Minnesota. They were talking and Whitney and Danielle hung out because like Danielle doesn't have many friends on this show. So she's like reaching out to the new girl and she's telling this new girl about like her relationship. She's like, yeah, he was married, but like he hadn't been in it for a while. I thought he had just gotten married. So like, what do you mean he wasn't in it? Like,
right.
Like he got
that.
There's something
track.
that doesn't track here, and I can't wait for Lindsay to call it out because what Danielle does is, yes, she says things that are accurate a lot of times, but the delivery is poor. I don't think it's the delivery that's poor. I think the problem is that she's not pointing out these things from a place of concern and care. She's pointing them out to be like, I am smarter than you. I am better than you. I wouldn't make the choices that you're making. She's not like, are you thinking about X, Y, and Z? Like you can show concern for your friends, but at the end of the day, they get to make their own choices. And if Lindsay chooses to move forward with Carl, that's her choice. That's both of their choice, right? And if she gets pregnant and wants to live separately from the father of her kid because they're still just dating, that's her choice. And to be like, well, I don't want to see you single momming it up. Like that is projecting something onto her that like was not, like she's already pregnant. Why are you telling her this? And something you don't want to see for her. Like she gets to choose what she does with her life. You don't get to like say like, as if there's something inherently bad or wrong about being a single mom. You know what I mean?
Exactly
like,
right. It's so judgmental. It's not being said with care and concern, and it is being said with a lot of judgment. And that's not a friend. Lindsay, I believe, is right. It's like, that's not a friend. If you and I were like on a show together and I was like shit talking you in confessionals, that's not a friend. Like, that's so crazy. Plus, when you're bringing an issue like that to someone who's already pregnant, that's going to do nothing but create anxiety. Like, that's not productive. Well, she's already pregnant. So what is this feedback?
Yeah.
It's meant to harm and not help. So, all right. So listen, I know this is a huge left turn, but let's switch to Rhode Island because we're running out of time and we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I love Rhode Island. There's a song, by the way, that when I do my interpretations on Instagram, I try to match it with songs. And there's this I Love Rhode Island song and I'm just obsessed with it. It's like cheesy and it's funny, but anyway. So Mandy, where should we start with Rhode Island?
Can we start with the fact that just before we started recording, I found out that Rosie is doing a DJ show in Washington, D.C., but it's a weekend that I'm not home. So I'm very sad. It's very near, it's close to where I live. And I was like, oh, I wish I could have gone. So she DJs and so does her husband. They DJ like kids' birthday parties and things like that. And graduation.
Really?
That's like what his main job is, I think, aside from being a Frank Sinatra impersonator, which is like the best job I've ever heard of.
I know. I actually love it so much. I'm like, that's dope.
Like if I met someone at a party and that was their job, I would basically only hang out with them the rest of the night and ask them questions. Like every once in a while,
100 questions.
Every once in a while I meet someone with like just like an absolutely like bizarre job like that just is so cool and different that I just am so curious, you know. But yeah, that's so it sounds like Rosie does these little DJ things. And then now that she's kind of a gay icon because she's on Real Housewives of Rhode Island and she used the term slam pig. It's literally I think the tour is called like Slam Pig Summer.
Oh my God.
It's her in like hot pink. And I just, you know what? And okay, so my view on Rhode Island is it's like definitely the best Housewives that is currently airing and possibly that will air all year. It is absolutely amazing. And I like everyone except for Liz. Like, I think a lot of people are feeling like you have to choose between Kelsey and Rosie. I'm like, don't make me choose. I like them both. And I I understand why both of them are upset with each other. And I think both of them have made major errors. Right? Like
Tell me about that. Because here's the thing with Rosie and Kelsey, and I think you're right about Liz. I think she's mean, and I don't like it with the whole Alicia homelessness stuff.
She's just mean.
She's just mean. It's just mean. Alicia literally has childhood trauma where her father abandoned her, and she had to move away from her childhood home, away from her room that she had just to herself, live with her grandparents, share a room with her mother. She lost her sense of home. So like, and by the way, homeless, you know, the term now is really unhoused. Because, you know, I know how you feel about that and things like that. So I'm just going to be mindful of my language. But Liz's assertion that Alicia is wrong is just being an asshole because it's less about being wrong and more about how Alicia's feeling. And that's why they get into the fight because it's like you're invalidating the shit out of her.
But Liz is trying to protect Alicia because Liz has, in my opinion, without a lot of evidence other than her friend Dino being in trouble with the law, I feel like she's got mafia ties and she's acting like, oh, you're bringing shame on the family by saying this. And so I'm going to step in and protect you because I know better than you. And at the time, she's invalidating her friend and she's annoyed. She gets annoyed and she gets angry quicker than she gets sad. And I don't like people like that are always like mad. And there's a lot of stuff that she says and does where I'm like, something's not adding up with you. And I don't know how I feel about you. I definitely want her to stay on the show, right? But like, I don't find a lot of redeeming qualities in her, except for the fact that like she raised these 3 girls and she seems to have a great relationship with them. Like, that's amazing. But I'm sorry, your husband like picking up sport fishing, like, and being gone 3 out of 4 weeks. Like, no. What's he shipping? What's he bringing into Providence? Because there's
a lot of rumors brewing. There's a lot of smoke that suggests allegedly that Dino was allegedly trafficking cocaine, cocaina, and that Liz was that there were some ties there to that. And so
just the idea that he's like, oh, other man, you watch out and protect my wife while I'm away. Sorry.
Yeah, it's giving like Gumar, you know, like on The Sopranos in the Italian culture, like you're allowed to have like a wife and a girlfriend. The girlfriend is called like the Gumar or the Gumad, you know. You hear Tony Soprano saying like, you know, them talking about their Gumads. So it is giving Gumad to me where it's like
what is your husband? And then for them to open up a legal weed business to think that that will somehow cover their tracks and people won't find out that they're associated with people that are part of the illicit drug trade. It's just, it feels like the audacity. That's
like
how I
feel. Flimsy money laundering plans.
Something's up. Something's up with her. Something's up.
But what I was going to say is that you are spot on in terms of what I saw with Liz. Like, it was very a mafia, like, don't talk shit about the family. But what annoys me is that Liz needs to stay in her lane because what I know to be true of trauma is that there are families out in the world that look like the goddamn Brady Bunch. And at home behind closed doors, it was the Manson household. Okay. So Liz needs to keep her mouth shut and understand that she doesn't understand trauma. She doesn't get it. She doesn't need to get it, but what people present publicly and what happens behind closed doors are 2 different things. And protecting people who hurt us is basically the dumbest idea. I mean, we do it all the time, right? I've done it. We all do it.
But that's also like what the Real Housewives of New Jersey always was. Teresa defending her husband. Like, you have to, like, this is very, like, this kind of culture. But the one other thing that she did that I didn't notice until someone posted it, I didn't realize she went and she said this, but when they were at Audrey's, the coffee shop for the trivia night, and some of them were like getting ready to go under the table because they like were embarrassed that Kelsey and Rosie were fighting. Liz, I think, looked at Joellen and said, if I ever give you this look, just it means I've already put a hit out on you.
She said that?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, Liz is like playing like she's like playing
that. It's crazy.
Rhode
maybe
Island mafia. Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. No, I think I definitely think you're exactly right about that. And, but to your point, it's like, well, what's your storyline besides walking your cat? And I don't, your husband's sport fishing, allegedly. I don't understand what her storyline is, but what I find really fascinating and I want to touch on, because you and I talked about this yesterday, is Alicia and Bill.
Yes.
Because you and I had this very long discussion about how what I see is that Alicia, like when we moved from a place of trauma, right? Like she was abandoned as a child. And so now she's like projecting and worrying that her fiance, who she hasn't married, right? Because she has all these issues, is going to abandon her. So she does this like pizza mama, like presentation, which was the cutest thing I might have ever seen in my life.
And
like
brilliant.
The poster board.
And
it was so
many smart ideas.
So cute. So many good ideas. But it like just goes to show. And then when she talked with Bill was like, yeah, where do you think this is all going, if not to you? And it's like such a good example of how when we move from trauma, we can get ourselves whipped up with things or put like invisible handcuffs on ourselves, not realizing how it's self-imposed, because this man has no intention of abandoning her or not supporting her. And so that's like for Alicia to work on, but it was just so fascinating to realize that.
I went back and watched the first episode of the season and was like, oh, he really likes her. Like it was very obvious that they have at least in the first episode, a like fun home dynamic where like she's making jokes, he's making jokes, the daughter's like having fun. And then I watched the scene of him and her in the car. And like, he has like such a love for her, but he also is so amused by her, and I think he's like a great partner for her. I thought it was interesting that she didn't even let him finish explaining. At least that's how the editing was. I'm sure it was a much longer conversation in real life. But she's like, if something happens to you, I'm left with nothing. And he's like, no, we have a trust. And then it kind of like ended and he's got like a financial manager and he says, you shut down when you don't understand something. And I think
he's right.
And he's right.
He's right.
And she should spend time with him and with the person managing the money and understand where the money is, who is in charge of it, what happens if they get a divorce, what happens if he dies, what happens if she dies, like just to go over to make sure their daughter is cared for, to make sure that, she's taken care of financially if something happens to him. So I feel like he's so open to having these conversations and that she's just like let herself spin out about it and not actually came to him with solid questions, like he says yes to everything she asks.
I mean, literally, she's like, can I have a steak? Yes. It's just like, yes, yes, yes. But I think to that point this is what anxiety does. Is it gets us to avoid the things that we're worried about. And then the more we avoid those things, the worse the anxiety gets. That's why Alicia needs her anxiety crackers. She needs her anxiety crackers because, and I can't do the accent, I have too much of a Midwest accent, but you get what I'm saying. Her anxiety crackers are because she's always, I believe she is experiencing a lot of symptoms of anxiety that are untreated. So the driving thing, I'll use this as an example. When I was in practice, one thing that I really successfully treated was anxiety specifically regarding to driving. I had a client who was just unable to drive, period. And then by the time we were done, she was on 81, 476, like crushing it. And so with Alicia, when you have anxiety about driving, which by the way, it's probably because she hit someone with her car, which that's going to cause like anyone a lot of driving anxiety. Like you hit someone with your car, which didn't you tell me that it was like someone was in a crisis and jumped out in front of her car?
The way that she described it on the after show was like the person like was running. Like it wasn't like she could have really prevented it.
Right.
And that the person
like
was okay too.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
but I think the whole experience, she said it was the worst thing to ever happen to her, which is just like you like immediately laugh because you're like, what about the person that got hit by the car?
Literally. Like, I'm sure it was no picnic for them either, Alicia. But but
I love
think
her.
that like I love Alicia. She might be, first of all, I agree with you that Real Housewives of Rhode Island might be the best Housewives franchise, period. Because I feel like these women, they don't suffer from that. Like, by the time we get to the Kyle Richards and the Teresa Giudice in season 15, these people are pop culture icons. They're different. They're just going to be different. And so these are housewives that are not established. They're still just regular Joes. And that's where the magic to me of Housewives lives, right in this moment that we're witnessing right now. But Alicia, one thing I loved about Bill is that he was like, I'm going to get in the car with you and we're going to go, because the only way to help driving anxiety is to challenge it. Now, I'm not giving people instruction. This is not therapy. But what I am saying is, if this is an issue for you, it's very workable in therapy. And there are tons of things you can do. And the way you just got to act opposite and do it anyway. But one thing I realized, Mandy, is that I forgot to give resources for borderline personality disorder. And I want to do that quick.
Sure.
Just because I hate talking about something and then not giving a resource. So we talked about KJ with borderline personality disorder. There's a BPD resource center. The contact information is 1-888-694-2273. I'll repeat that. 1-888-694-2273. This resource center offers information, treatment options, and a database of quality care providers. And then there's the National Education Alliance for BPD. They have a website and they provide free educational resources for families and patients.
That's amazing, because I imagine, he was dating someone and it's like, you're like, well, I don't know. I'm not experienced in this. I don't know how to navigate this either, as someone who's not the patient, but like with the patient and wants the patient to succeed. And how do I know how to navigate this? And so it's great to have educational resources, and just like any other illness, learn about it so that you can be a helpful partner.
Yeah. And I think like, as we're talking about Alicia and anxiety, it's like avoidance. I get it. I fall into that trap myself, but really the best way to move through anything is to face it, because it usurps our own like power. When we give into the anxiety, it takes away our own power. We have to build our sense of mastery and say, I can't handle this. I will handle this, and I'm going to handle this. And so I think that's just my empowering message to people. No matter what you're struggling with, we can do it. The help is available. We are worth it. And I just encourage everyone to be easy on themselves, and we're doing the best we can. So use the resources we have, because I just think we deserve better than to suffer. So before we wrap, Mandy, what else about Rhode Island? Was there other stuff that you wanted to mention?
I love Ashley I. I've always liked Ashley I. I think it's great when someone can really live out loud and have all their emotions. She's as if she's like a 16-year-old, right? Like all of her interests just haven't changed since she was 16. But it is authentic to her, and I like that. I also can relate to being overstimulated. And she wasn't in a way that she could get out of a situation. So her just being like, can we all stop yelling at each other? Like was like so relatable, because I would just leave. Like I would remove myself from this like stimulant. Like it's just too much. And like her husband being like, calm down. Like, and
because it's like so ironic, by the way. It's like you're the one causing the scene because you just got overstimulated and yelled. It wasn't them. It was you.
Yes. And then when he's asking those questions, like while the arguments are going on and other people are trying to play the trivia, it is so funny. And Kelsey does make me laugh. I do feel like she knows what she's doing, and I think she's being coached by Liz. I think Liz likes Kelsey the best. I read on the internet, and I don't know who wrote this take, but that they were getting the feeling that Liz's friends like didn't make the cut to be on the show, and she's annoyed that she has to film with these other people because like she thinks she's a star. I think she thinks Kelsey's a star. I don't know if she thinks everyone else is a star. So I'm sure she might feel some kind of way about Alicia walking away with being the biggest star, because I'm sure Alicia has never thought she would be the most liked. Right?
Alicia has no idea how goddamn likable she is. She has no idea.
And I hope
Alicia
she doesn't change,
believes,
which
I hope she doesn't either. But no, I mean, literally, I don't think here's why I say I don't think she will, because people like her, when you have trauma from like not getting the love you need, there's like no amount of love and support that's ever going to make your head big enough to like buy your own bullshit, usually for the most part. But listen, housewives might be different. It may just hit a little different. I don't know.
I'm not as big on like gimmicks. Like when Angie K had the squirrel, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
but
I don't like that
when
either.
Kelsey had her siren and her like house, police thing, I'm like, oh, this feels very like Kenya Moore hair care. Like she's watched these shows and she's trying to emulate that. And then seeing it fail so badly was so funny. And also just like, wow, I just didn't know Rosie had it in her. And it's fascinating when women are able to like fully express their anger. And I enjoyed watching it. But I also, when then Kelsey was like, she is beauty, she is grace, she is Miss Slam Pig United States. Like, it's so funny, but it's also a gimmick. Like, I'm like, you're doing it so that you can get that one clip. And I feel like she's being coached. And she's also probably coaching herself, right? But I am very curious. I cannot wait for the reunion to find out whether or not this situation with the boyfriend that had the big house and paid for her life, did that just happen, or did that happen 2 years ago? And did she think it was interesting enough to make that her storyline? And so she like recreated, which is fraudulent and obnoxious.
Yes. That's a good way to end on this, is that the feeling that I get about Kelsey is she's fraudulent. She's a performer. She's inauthentic. She is, like you said, trying to have clips, trying to have a moment. I've seen those things online too, that like the boyfriend, they weren't even together, but she used it to get on the show. And that's alleged. I'm not saying that that's true, but I have a hard time putting my finger on the pulse of Kelsey because I think she's doing too much showmanship. Whereas Alicia, why people love her is because she's just like unapologetically her quirky self. Whereas Kelsey's calculated and it's coming off as mean and very curated and just like, I don't like it. So I think we're going to have problems with Rhode Island with like Liz and Kelsey versus people who want to be a little bit more authentic. I feel like we're going to see some issues with that, but
I feel
season
like
2, I guess
Joe
we'll
Ellen and like she must have known if this wasn't true and she was going along with it because she thought it would make a good show. Like I bet a bunch of them, were kind of essentially told, except for Rosie, who is, I think, recruited to be on the show with Ashley and didn't have any real connections to the other women on the cast.
Which you can tell. You can tell Rosie is an outsider. She doesn't feel like she fits, and they don't feel like she fits.
Yeah, and
it's interesting.
I don't like how much they're like bringing up these random rumors. I'm like, that is crazy. If you have no definitive actual proof, then like stop saying that. Stop saying she hooked up with this basketball coach. There's literally no proof. Rosie says she's never been in a room with that man. And she's like reached out to he's now at Georgetown. She's like reached out to like the team to be like, can he put out a statement saying that he doesn't know who I am? God. I'm like, that is crazy. But
that is crazy.
Yeah. I felt like they were hitting her with like, she was being bullied, and I understand her hitting her breaking point.
Yeah. I mean, I get it too. So TBD, to be continued. But listen, we're going to record part 2 of M&M Hour. So Mandy, let everyone know where they can find you and part 2 of the podcast.
Yes. So you can find me. Actually, I think it'll be part 1 because it's coming out on Sunday.
Oh, geez, you're right. You're right.
So yeah, you can find the other part of the podcast both on this channel, but also on Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutsker. I put out podcasts every Sunday, and you can find me on Instagram at Mandy Slutsker, and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, just type in Mandy Slut and I come up.
Our beloved little slut. We love you so much, Mandy. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please go ahead and give Your Bish Therapist and Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutsker a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you for, all the engagement, etc. But if you could give us a follow, check out my Patreon, the whole thing. We love it all. So for today, Thank you for listening. Sending love to you and yours, and ta-ta for now. Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Greyheart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, or hear on YBT podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.